Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Season 4 finale, Earth's Last Stand. Now, for this being the fourth finale of the series out of just a pretty crazy version of the Ninja Turtles franchise. They've done a lot of the characters. They've done a lot of, really out there stuff with this season because they were obviously in space. We got introduced to some of the, space foreign characters. We met Mona Lisa, which is a really big deal. Her character from the comics. So they've done a lot of great stuff this season, and excuse me, it's like, ultimately this is the space season. I think we all knew that, especially from the beginning, the whole point was to get the black hole generator and save Earth, that they'd be getting back to Earth by the end of this finale. And, they finally get there. We go through a lot of stuff. We find out that the Fugitoid actually created the black hole generator, or the Heart of Darkness, and that kind of turned the team against him, kind of at the last minute, and it was that sort of thing where it was a big reveal at the end, and everybody was kind of mad at him, like, it's your fault that all this happened. And if I remember right, he did mention that, the Triceratons kind of, they bought it from him, and he just didn't know what they were going to do. And he did kind of mention, like, he didn't really care. He just, wanted to get rich quick at that moment. And so he definitely screwed up, but I felt like they were blaming him more for the fact that he just flat out made it, as if he made it for the Triceratons, because he mentions, like, I made it for energy. But every time they talked about him, it seemed like they were saying, like, oh, you made it, and that was the only problem. It's like, well, he made it for energy, which was great, but then he, poof, I just want a bunch of money. That was the issue. And it seemed like they were only focused on the fact that it exists. Like, well, crappy things can exist and then, be okay. Like, that just happens. So, it seemed like there was, kind of mad about the wrong reason, and then they were, like, super mad because it was, like, this last bit of a reveal. And then at the same time, to me, I was like, I feel like it doesn't really matter that much. I know they have, like, someone to truly blame, and I know that, it's much easier for me to, look at this show and be like, it seems like they're angrier than they should be when Earth was gone, and it was, he's the guy who made it. So, of course, I don't feel as just angry and horrible as they did towards him. So it did make sense, but from my own personal experience looking at it, I'm like, I feel like they're a little too angry. But obviously, literally, my whole world did not get destroyed by, a black hole generator, so a little different. But I did enjoy, the combat and everything. Of course, the action was good. We got to see the season 3 finale again, and them fighting on Earth and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. I like the way they did the colors for it, because it was slightly neutralized. The colors were, like, a little bit grayer, so it wasn't like, the deep greens for the turtles and stuff. Everything kind of had a little shade of, like, white over it to make it all kind of sort of blend together a little bit. Nothing, like, really popped out. I was like, that's actually really cool that they did it that way. And we're going through, and it's like, all right, so how are they going to do this? Kind of the big thing with the time travel stuff. What was going to happen was, my prediction was that the Earth would be destroyed, but they would somehow fix it. And, like, they would see themselves, jump back the 6 months, but then they would somehow do something to fix the black hole generator, and, or, redo it or reverse it or whatever, and they would, recreate Earth again. And I thought it was interesting the way it played out. I kind of didn't like the way that it played out, to be totally honest. Mostly, honestly, the main thing I didn't like about this finale was actually the way it ended. Like, probably the last 5 minutes or last 10 minutes of this episode kind of sucked to me, because first it starts off, we have everything happening. The turtles get to Earth after the Triceratons. Ultimately, they team up with their past selves. We have a cool fight scene. Everybody teams up. They beat the Triceratons. And I was like, okay, this makes perfect sense. Literally, the only thing they have to do is stop Shredder from killing Master Splinter. That was what stopped everything, because Master Splinter was about to hit it. And then, of course, Shredder kills him, and that's why, everything falls apart. And I was like, okay. 4 extra turtles. They basically defeated everyone anyway. So I was like, that's how they're going to do it. One of the turtles, at the last minute, is going to end up saving, Master Splinter. And maybe someone else would hit the button, because I figured they would either push Master Splinter or just, like, tackle Shredder or something, and then Master Splinter could hit the button and stop it. So, like, one of those things is going to happen. And instead, it was just like, the scene continued on, and he just stopped him. Like, Master Splinter, for whatever reason, he realized this time. He was like, oh, and he stopped him, and it was like, well, that doesn't really make sense because nothing really changed outside of, like, because they didn't really show up until after that happened. If I remember, hopefully I don't have that backwards, but even then, it's like why would he suddenly be so much more aware? But it was like before the turtles really even showed up to save him or do anything, he was about to get stabbed. And it was like, nope, this time he just knew. And I was like, I kind of don't like that because it was out of nowhere. Like, nothing happened where they said, anything really different, unless I'm totally forgetting some scene. I hope I'm not. And I'm totally, getting, uppity over something that was actually done perfectly well. But from what I remember, they didn't really do anything to change. It was just Master Splinter, instead of being killed, wasn't killed. Like, that was it. He just knew that Shredder was about to stab him, and that seemed to be what happened. And he was like, oh, and he stopped him and knocked him down. And then I don't know why the generator didn't go off that time either. I didn't even think of that when I was watching it, but he didn't hit the button and he stopped Shredder from killing him, which means the timer should have gone off. But I don't know. That may have changed because the turtles had shown up, because they also spent more time talking to the turtles, because it was like, oh, you don't seem to remember me. That was like probably a solid 15 seconds or something. So it technically makes a bit of a difference, even though they still showed that the timer was going down. But it was, that kind of bothered me. It was just like, he just knew and he stopped Shredder, which Master Splinter's alive, so who cares really? But that kind of bothered me a little bit. And then everything kind of just happened the normal way, and it was like, okay, the turtles, from last season just go off into space, and it's like, well, they wouldn't do the same thing. Like, they aren't gonna go back in time because there would be no reason for that. They just left. It was like they all just left, and then Casey and April ran off with them as well. And it's like, oh sweet, let's go because our future versions are here, and that's really it. So it seemed just really real. It's like, all right, and I always assumed, honestly, that the reason the Fugitoid even showed up was because Earth was destroyed by the black hole generator, and that wasn't the case. Apparently, he still says the same thing, and it's just like, oh, it's totally fine and stuff, and it wasn't. It was the same way he's said it before, but I thought he saved them because the Earth was being destroyed. And it's like, oh no, he still showed up, and everything. They take off into space, and it's like, all right, we're back, and that was it. And fortunately, Fugitoid is still alive, the present version of the Fugitoid, because he does end up having to sacrifice himself to stop the black hole generator, which I thought was a very interesting moment. I was very surprised when they did that, and I thought, because it's a TV show, like, there's got to be something they can switch out or something to keep him alive, but ultimately he had to sacrifice himself. But he does make it. I'm curious to see if he's going to be altered in some way, because he flickers back, but who's to say he'll be the same, or someone, say Baxter Stockman, doesn't get to him first, and how that might affect him, even though he's still a human brain. I'm curious to see if there might be some change to his character in the next season. But just the way they ended it seemed really weird. Master Splinter, just no real difference. He just knew that Shredder was trying to kill him that time, and that was really it. That was the main thing. The other turtles just leaving off. That's just how they chose to do the time travel. So it's still really weird because at some point they'd have to come back, or at some point the present turtles would disappear, unless they don't want to do that version of time travel. And it's like, well, our present turtles, they did what they did, and that's it. And then the other turtles from season 3, I guess maybe because they went back in time, you could count it as a totally different universe. Maybe, who knows? It's time travel. None of it's real, so it shouldn't even be an issue. But I am excited for the next season for sure. I still enjoyed this one, even though that was really the one thing, because it was like they didn't do anything to really change it, and I guess that really was the only difference, is the fact that the older turtles from season 3 meeting the Triceratons, or at least the armies and stuff, for the first time, that changed things because they talked a little bit longer, so it changed the time frame of how things went down. And I guess that's the argument for it, really, unless there was seriously something else I just completely missed. But from what I remember, it was just he Shredder came at him just like before, and it was, instead of him being stabbed, it was like, oh, and he turned around and he got him. It was like, man, you suck. You know, you kill me and just to destroy the whole planet to kill me. And another thing that did bother me a little bit was the fact that they didn't have it where Tiger Claw realized what happened there. Like, because they had that, in the last season, it was like, you doomed us all just to get revenge. It seemed weird that he didn't mention that. Like, he didn't see him trying to kill Splinter or anything like that, because they talked about it where Splinter, flips him over. And he's like, you destroyed the world just to kill me. But no one seemed to really bring that up after. Like, Tiger Claw is just like, you guys won this time, and, they take him off, but it wasn't like, hey, he tried to kill him, the man who was going to literally save the planet. So it was just interesting. It was like, I feel weird that they didn't have him at least somewhat reference that, but sometimes more important things we gotta take off before the turtles destroy us. So I guess it made sense there. But like I said, overall, I did enjoy the finale. That was just the minor thing that really bugged me. It seemed like there was nothing done differently outside of, like I said, the Triceraton conversation with Mikey when he first captured him, and that was really it. Because the other turtles didn't show up until like right after the Master Splinter stuff, or like just before maybe. So once again, the fighting and stuff, but it seemed like it all led to the same moment. So I guess ultimately that's what it is. The minor variations, that's what allowed Master Splinter to do it. It just seemed really weird because it was obviously that's how he died, and he didn't know that that was happening. And then this time it was just like, oh yeah, I noticed, and that was it. So it just seemed weird. Like, it didn't seem like good enough to me of a difference. But that's me being pretty nitpicky about it, just because I felt like there should have been something more drastic, like the turtles really having to save him also would have been more impactful, because if they were the ones to like literally save him and he didn't just turn around and do it himself, it also would have been much cooler for the turtles, because they literally would have stopped their own father from dying, and instead he saved himself, which is still cool, but it's not nearly as impactful as it would have been either if it wouldn't matter who did it, but or like maybe if all four of them, because it's Shredder, all four of them have to like take him down or something at the last minute, and that saves Master Splinter and he stops the generator. That would have been really really cool, but like I said, instead he just you know counters like he always does, being super cool as Master Splinter, and that was it. And I was like, somewhat lackluster solution to him dying. He just didn't die, and he saved him. He saved himself and didn't die. It wasn't like the turtles saved their father or anything like that. He just saved himself. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next season. I'm super happy that the turtles are back in New York. I can't wait to see what we get from that. And we have Master Splinter back, which is very awesome. So looking forward to that. Like I said, the stuff with Fugitoid and how that's gonna play out. We have the foot coming back. We still don't know what happened with Karai. We still don't have any answers to that. That was like the big thing when they returned to New York, and that still hasn't been completely resolved. And then whole Earth destruction thing. They went to space back in time, traveled through space, and finally now they're back to Earth. So I hope the season premieres seriously, even if they don't completely solve the problem of Karai and everything going on with her. I want to at least see Karai, because it's been way too long. She's one of the greatest characters in all of Ninja Turtles, and they do a great job in this with this version of her character as well, especially with the mutation and her often lack of control. I can't even remember if they left off and now she has complete control or not. Um, but I'm looking forward to seeing more Karai for sure. So I'm definitely looking forward to this next season. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this finale. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, I want to know what you guys want to see in the next season. What you guys expect to see in the next season. Because they've introduced a lot of different characters. We've had Armagon. We've had Mona Lisa, who I'm sure, of course, will definitely be showing up on Earth. We are most likely going to go right back to our, kind of duo of villains, which are going to be the Foot and the Krang, because we've had, for this season, it was Dragon, his, bug robot army thing, and then, of course, the Triceratons. So it's like, those were the two, that was my stomach. That was like my stomach growling, in a weird way, I guess. But those were like our two like main villains really, and now they're gone. I would love to see the Triceratons come back, even though they lost because the Triceratons are so tough. Um, but we're gonna go back to the Krang and the Foot. We're probably gonna get. Hopefully, I would love for us to get the one Triceraton guy. I totally forgot his name, but like the one who looked like a full-on dinosaur, who had like the long tail and actually had like the spikes and everything. I would love to see him come back because the last we saw, he let the turtles go free, and then the other Triceratons were swarming him because he kind of chose not to be a slave anymore. So I would love to see him come back because he was super cool, and I would love to see him and uh, Leatherhead fight together. That would be very fun. So hopefully we get that sometime in the next season. But like I said, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this season 4 finale, and of course what you guys want to see for season 5. Just what you want to see, and of course what you guys expect to see based on what we've had previous couple of seasons. Obviously, um, just going back to Shredder and stuff is obvious to expect. Karai, definitely what I want to see more than anything else is Karai. But we do also still have the idea of evil April because they hinted at that, with the crystal and people getting corrupted. I thought that would be this season, but they haven't touched on that yet. She's used the power, but it hasn't corrupted her in any way just yet. So I think that's probably one of the biggest factors that was created for this season specifically that we'll get to see in season 5. So really looking forward to that. But like I said, definitely want to know what you guys want to see. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.